She was labeled a prostitute, considered a traitor, and lived as an outcast on the margins of society. Yet God chose her, this unlikely woman, to not only save his people but to become part of the sacred bloodline that would eventually bring forth Jesus Christ himself. This is the raw, unfiltered story of Rahab that most Sunday school classes conveniently skip over. If you've ever felt unworthy, if you've ever believed your past mistakes have disqualified you from God's purpose, or if you've ever wondered if redemption is even possible for someone like you, this story will transform your understanding of God's grace. Hit that subscribe button right now because in the next 25 minutes, you're about to discover how the God of the universe deliberately chooses the most unexpected people to accomplish his most extraordinary purposes. Drop a comment with the word unworthy if you've ever felt like your mistakes have defined you or disqualified you from God's plan. Now, let's dive into the shocking truth about Rahab, a story of redemption that echoes through the centuries. The night air in Jericho hung heavy with dread. For weeks, terrifying rumors had circulated through the crowded streets and marketplaces. An army was coming, but not just any army. This was the army of Israel, led by a God who had humiliated Egypt's Pharaoh, split the Red Sea with a command, and turned bitter water sweet. The same God who had already obliterated neighboring kingdoms that dared stand in Israel's path. Behind Jericho's imposing walls so thick that chariot races were said to be held on top of them, the people clung to a desperate hope that stone and height would protect them from what was coming. In the shadow of these massive defenses lived a woman named Rahab. Her house was literally built into the city wall, a physical reflection of her social status. Neither fully inside nor outside, she existed on the boundary of Jericho society. Rahab stood at her window, watching the stars flicker over the Jordan Valley. From this vantage point, she could see the distant fires of the Israelite camp. Some in Jericho dismissed these invaders, but Rahab knew better. She had heard too many stories from travelers who passed through her door. Everyone in Jericho knew about Rahab. The respectable women clutched their children closer when she walked by in the marketplace. The city elders tolerated her business but kept her segregated, literally pushed to the edge of their society. The men who visited her under cover of darkness pretended not to recognize her in daylight. Prostitute, they called her. Necessary evil, they whispered. Sinner, they judged. But Rahab had learned to survive in a world that offered few options to a woman alone. She listened to the stories travelers told, filing away information others might dismiss. And lately, all the stories had been about one thing, the unstoppable advance of the Israelites and their powerful God. The knock came just after sunset, 3 sharp raps that sounded different from her usual visitors. Cautiously, Rahab opened the door to find 2 men standing there. Their clothing was travel-worn, their beards dusty from the road. But it was their eyes that caught her attention, alert, watchful, taking in every detail of the street behind them. "We need lodging for the night," the taller one said, his accent marking him immediately as a foreigner. "We can pay well." He held out several pieces of silver. In her profession, Rahab rarely asked questions. Men came to her with secrets, and she had learned long ago to keep those secrets. But these men were different. They weren't seeking the usual services. They were hiding something. As she led them inside, Rahab's mind raced. Their accents, their nervousness, the timing of their arrival, it all pointed to one conclusion. These were Israelite spies, sent ahead to scout Jericho before the attack. In any other situation, turning these men in would have meant a handsome reward from the king. Perhaps enough silver to change her life, to buy respectability, to escape the trade that had become her prison. One simple act of loyalty to her city could end years of shame and struggle. She offered them food and water, studying their faces as they ate. They spoke little, but their eyes said much. The pounding at her door came without warning, loud, authoritative, unmistakably official. "Open in the name of the king of Jericho." The spies froze, hands instinctively moving to hidden weapons. Rahab pressed a finger to her lips, motioning them toward the back of the house. Quick! To the roof. Under the flax. Don't make a sound. The men disappeared up the ladder just as the pounding resumed, more insistent this time. Rahab took a deep breath, composing herself before opening the door to find royal guards, their spears gleaming in the torchlight. "Bring out the men who came to you," the captain demanded without preamble. "They are Israelite spies. The king knows they're here." Time seemed to stand still. In that moment, balancing on the knife's edge between two worlds, Rahab made a decision that would echo through eternity. Something stirred within her soul, memories of stories she'd heard from travelers about this God of Israel. Unlike the cold stone idols of Jericho that demanded sacrifice but offered nothing in return, this God made promises and kept them. This God performed wonders. This God freed slaves and parted seas. And in that moment, standing in her doorway with the king's soldiers before her and Israel's spies hidden above, Rahab chose to place her trust in a God she had never seen but somehow knew was real. "Yes, the men came to me," she told the soldiers, her voice remarkably steady. "But I didn't know who they were or where they came from. They left at dusk, just as the city gate was closing. I don't know which way they went." She leaned forward conspiratorially. "But if you hurry, you might catch them before they reach the fords of the Jordan." The captain studied her face for any sign of deception, then nodded sharply. "Search the surrounding countryside," he ordered his men. "They can't have gotten far." The soldiers rushed away into the darkness, their torches receding like fireflies into the night. Only when their footsteps had faded completely did Rahab allow herself to breathe again. She climbed to the roof where the spies emerged from beneath the drying flax stalks, their eyes wide with gratitude and questions. "Why?" the shorter spy asked simply. "Why would you, a citizen of Jericho, risk your life for us?" Rahab moved to the edge of the roof, gazing out over the sleeping city bathed in moonlight. For a moment, she was silent, gathering her thoughts. "Your God is not like our gods," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've heard the stories. How he dried up the Red Sea when you came out of Egypt. How he utterly destroyed Sihon and Og, the two kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan." She turned to face them, her expression resolute. "Everyone in Jericho is terrified. Our courage is gone, melted away like morning mist. Because the Lord your God." She paused, the unfamiliar divine name feeling strange yet right on her lips. "He is God in heaven above and on earth below." The spies exchanged glances of astonishment. This Canaanite woman, this prostitute, had just proclaimed a faith in their God that would put many in their own camp to shame. "I know what's coming," Rahab continued, her voice growing urgent. "Your people will destroy this city. But when that happens..." She took a deep breath. "Swear to me by your Lord that you will show kindness to me and my family, my father, mother, brothers, and sisters, everyone who belongs to me. Spare our lives from death." The taller spy stepped forward, his face solemn in the moonlight. "Our lives for your lives. If you don't betray us, we will treat you kindly and faithfully when the Lord gives us this land. This we swear by the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." Rahab's house was built directly into the city wall, with her window facing outward beyond the fortifications. In the darkness, she led the spies to this window and revealed a long rope hidden beneath her bed. "The gates are closed and guarded," she explained. "But this will take you outside the wall. Head straight to the hills and hide there for 3 days until the search parties return. Then you can go back to your people." As she prepared to lower them down, the shorter spy reached into his bag and pulled out a coil of brilliant scarlet cord, the color of fresh blood. "Listen carefully," he said, pressing the cord into her hands. When we enter the land, you must tie this scarlet cord in the window through which you're letting us down. And you must bring your father, mother, brothers, and all your family into your house." His expression grew grave. "Anyone who goes outside your house into the street will be responsible for their own blood, we will be innocent. But everyone inside this house, marked by this scarlet cord, will be spared. If anyone lays a hand on them, their blood will be on our heads." With trembling fingers, Rahab accepted the cord. "As you have said, so it will be." She lowered the spies down the wall using the rope, watching as they disappeared into the darkness beyond the city. Then, with reverent care, she tied the scarlet cord to her window, a fragile thread of hope against the might of Jericho's imposing walls. Days passed with agonizing slowness. The scarlet cord fluttered in the breeze, a constant reminder of both hope and danger. Neighbors noticed. "What's that red rope for, Rahab?" a merchant asked one morning as he passed beneath her window. "Just drying it," she lied, her heart pounding. "It's a special dye from Egypt. For a client." Each day brought new challenges. Her family questioned her when she begged them to be ready to come to her house at a moment's notice. "What nonsense is this?" her brother scoffed when she tried to explain. "You believe these invaders God will save you? Our walls have stood for generations. No army has ever breached them. Please," she implored. "Just promise me you'll come when I call. All of you, father, mother, everyone. Promise me." Only after days of persistent pleading did they reluctantly agree, more to humor her than out of any real belief. At night, alone with her thoughts, doubt crept in like a thief. What if the spies forgot their promise? What if the scarlet cord wasn't visible enough? What if her family refused to come when the time arrived? What if she had betrayed her city for nothing? The scarlet cord became both her hope and her torment, a constant reminder of her dangerous choice. Then one morning, they appeared. The Israelite army emerged from their camp and approached the city. The alarm was sounded. Warriors rushed to the walls. Women gathered children and retreated to inner rooms. The elders assembled in the central square, grim-faced yet confident in their defenses. But the expected assault never came. Instead, the Israelites began walking. In complete silence, they circled the entire city once, led by priests carrying what appeared to be a golden box. Strange trumpet blasts echoed across the valley. Then, as mysteriously as they had appeared, they returned to their camp. The people of Jericho were bewildered. "Is this their mighty attack?" some laughed. "Walking in circles and blowing horns." But Rahab didn't laugh. From her window, the scarlet cord brushing against her face, she watched with growing certainty that she had made the right choice. The next day, the same strange ritual. And the next. For 6 days, the Israelites circled Jericho once, then returned to camp. With each passing day, confusion in the city grew to fear. What kind of siege was this? What were they waiting for? What did this silent procession mean? On the 7th day, something changed. Before dawn had fully broken, the Israelites began marching again. But this time, they didn't stop at one circuit. They marched around the city a second time. Then a third. And a fourth. By the 6th circuit, panic had spread through Jericho. Rahab rushed through the streets, gathering her family. "Come now," she urged them. "Today is the day. Come to my house." Reluctantly, seeing the fear in her eyes, they followed, her aging father, her mother, her brothers and sisters and their families. All crowded into her small house by the wall. "What's happening?" her father demanded as Rahab barred the door. She pointed to the scarlet cord fluttering from her window. "Our salvation," she said simply. Outside, the Israelites completed their 7th circuit of the city. The trumpets that had been blowing throughout the day suddenly stopped. An eerie silence fell. And then, a sound unlike anything before. The trumpets blasted with renewed vigor, and the entire Israelite army released a deafening shout that seemed to shake the very earth beneath their feet. The mighty walls of Jericho, walls that had stood for generations, walls that the people believed would keep them safe forever, began to tremble. Small cracks appeared in the ceiling. Dust filled the air. Rahab's family huddled together, terror in their eyes. With a thunderous roar that echoed across the valley, the walls collapsed inward. All around the city, stone crashed upon stone. People screamed. Soldiers ran in confusion. The sounds of destruction and war cries filled the air. But amid the chaos and devastation, one section of wall remained standing, the section with Rahab's house, marked by the scarlet cord. Inside, Rahab clutched her youngest niece close, whispering assurances as the child trembled against her. Her brother, who had scoffed at her warnings, now stared at her with newfound respect and fear. "How did you know?" he whispered. Before she could answer, footsteps approached through the rubble. Rahab tensed, pulling her family closer. This was the moment of truth. Would the spies remember their oath? The door burst open. Silhouetted against the dust-filled sky stood two familiar figures, the same men she had hidden weeks before. "Rahab," one called. "Quickly! Bring your family and come with us before the city is burned." They guided Rahab and her family through the ruins of Jericho. All around them, the Israelite army was carrying out God's judgment on the city. But Rahab and her family passed through untouched, protected by the promise and the scarlet cord. They were taken to safety outside the Israelite camp. The spies spoke with Joshua, the Israelite leader, who listened to their account and nodded his approval. Rahab the prostitute and her family would live among the Israelites. The transition wasn't easy. At first, life among the Israelites was filled with challenges. Whispers followed her. The prostitute from Jericho. Some questioned why she had been spared when others perished. Cultural differences and old prejudices created invisible walls even as Jericho's physical walls lay in ruins. But Rahab's faith had only grown stronger. Each day, she learned more about this God who had saved her, not because she was perfect, but because she had faith when an entire city doubted. She embraced the laws and customs of her new people with the same determination that had kept her alive in Jericho. Months passed. The Israelites continued their conquest of Canaan. And Rahab continued to build a new life among them, slowly earning respect through her unwavering faith and quiet dignity. Then one day, a man named Salmon approached her. He was from the tribe of Judah, one of the most prominent tribes of Israel. Some whispered he might have been one of the original spies, though Rahab never confirmed this. Their eyes met, not with the transaction of her former life, but with something deeper, something that spoke of redemption and new beginnings. In him, she saw not judgment for her past but appreciation for her courage and faith. They married, the former Canaanite prostitute and the Israelite prince. Their union raised eyebrows and caused scandal among the more rigid members of the community. But those who had witnessed God's hand in Rahab's story recognized a divine purpose at work. In time, they had a son named Boaz, a man who would himself show remarkable kindness to another foreign woman named Ruth. From their line would come King David, Israel's greatest king. And from David's line, generations later, would come Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world. Rahab's story might have ended there, lost to history except as a footnote in conquest narratives. But God wasn't finished honoring her faith. In the New Testament, in Hebrews chapter 11, the great Hall of Faith that lists the heroes of faith throughout history, we find her name. By faith Rahab the prostitute did not perish with those who were disobedient, because she had given a friendly welcome to the spies. There she stands, this former prostitute, alongside Abraham, Moses, and David, giants of faith. Her past didn't disqualify her. Her nationality didn't disqualify her. Her profession didn't disqualify her. What qualified her was her faith, her willingness to trust in a God she had only heard about, to risk everything on a promise and a scarlet cord. And she appears again in James 2 verse 25, held up as an example of faith accompanied by works. Was not Rahab the prostitute also justified by works when she received the messengers and sent them out by another way? The scarlet cord that saved Rahab points to something greater. Like the blood of the Passover lamb that protected the Israelites in Egypt, it foreshadowed the blood of Christ that would one day save all who believe. Just as that simple cord marked Rahab's house for salvation amid destruction, Christ's sacrifice marks us for redemption in a broken world. And just as Rahab's story didn't end with her rescue but continued through her descendants to Jesus himself, our story doesn't end with salvation. It continues as God weaves our lives, even the broken, shameful parts, into his greater tapestry of redemption. The woman once known only as Rahab the prostitute became Rahab, ancestor of Jesus. The woman who once sold her body became an essential thread in God's plan of salvation for all humanity. Her life speaks to us across the centuries with a message that resonates in the deepest places of our souls: no one is beyond God's reach. No past is too shameful for his purpose. No wall is too high for his grace. If God could use Rahab, a pagan prostitute in a condemned city, he can use you. No matter what labels the world has given you. No matter what mistakes haunt your past. No matter how unworthy you feel. Like Rahab, you need only hang the scarlet cord of faith from your window and trust the God who specializes in the redemption of the unlikely. If Rahab's story touched something deep in your soul today, don't keep it to yourself. Smash that subscribe button right now and join our Bible Stories Discovered family. We're uncovering the raw, real stories of God's redemption every week. Here's what I want you to do: share in the comments one word that describes how Rahab's story made you feel. Was it hope? Redemption? Possibility? I read every comment, and I can't wait to see which part of her journey resonated with you. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, someone who feels disqualified by their past, hit that share button. You never know whose life might change because you shared Rahab's story. Until next time, remember, your past doesn't determine your future in God's kingdom. This is Bible Stories Discovered, where we uncover the truth that transforms lives.